Good evening and welcome to UWE News. I'm Matt Light and making the headlines this evening. In or out, the EU referendum campaign begins. Pedal power versus parent power, the battle for priority on the cycle path. And ever fancied going into space? Well, according to a Bristol man, you could soon do this on a plane. Today we're asking you to make the news. We need you to send in a message for the prospective mayoral candidates. What do you think the top priority for the mayor should be? You can send in your video selfies to www.uejournalism.net/BristolWired. Today sees the official launch of the 10-week EU referendum campaign. Although the campaign has now officially started, the debate has been raging on for a long time. Britain Stronger in Europe and Vote Leave were picked as the official campaigns for the in and out camps. Although there has been a challenge by rival Leave campaign Leave EU to be the official exit group. Here's Matt Bass with more.
The campaigns have officially started and both sides have started hitting the streets. Talking in Bedminster, Councillor Mark Bradshaw believes the UK should stay in the EU.
It's far better that we're in than out because of all the uncertainty that out brings. So not only loss in terms of funding for research and investment and innovation, funding for small firms and enterprise, for youth unemployment, there's also all the uncertainty as well. There's been a diet of negative news about Europe for many years. So all the nonsense about having straight bananas and all the rest of it, there's just been a constant outpouring of negative news. And those of us who believe it's best to stay in need to up our game in terms of getting the positive messages across.
A representative for the Leave side couldn't be reached, but this is what the official out campaign Vote Leave have to say. On the 23rd of June, it's safer to vote Leave and take back control. We should stop spending £350 million per week to unelected politicians in Brussels and spend our money on priorities like the NHS.
I don't know the full ins and outs of everything. I've tried to find out as much as I can, but it is quite confusing.
I don't want other countries dictating our laws, rules and regulations and working conditions.
Well, I read in the papers for and against, and I think there's more for than against.
I'm not convinced that actually the British economy and parts of the British economy will be able to exist without the funding that they get currently from the from the EU.
This is the first day of many in this 10-week EU referendum campaign, and certainly not the last. Matt Bass, UWE News.
Bristol is a city full of cyclists, but this surge of people opting for two wheels is causing traffic issues on some pedestrian paths. Rose White reports.
The Bristol-Bath Railway Path is used by cyclists and walkers alike. The 13-mile stretch allows commuters from both cities to get to work more easily. But concerns over the speed of some cyclists has led to the development of a campaign group called Respect the Railway.
The Respect the Railway campaign was set up by the Eastern Green Party. Its goal is to promote safer practices for cyclists and pedestrians that use this path on a daily basis. We spoke to some people in Bristol about what they thought about this path and whether they think there are cyclists that are going too fast or if it's just not a big problem.
But yeah, I don't think people really care about the pedestrians on it, to be honest. People are just trying to get their destination and trying to get there quick. So I think, yeah, some signage may be letting people know that a certain speed needs to be put in place because, yeah, it's a bit frightening for pedestrians.
It works both ways. Sometimes pedestrians antagonise cyclists and cyclists can antagonise pedestrians.
It does feel a tad too dangerous at times, definitely.
I come down here pretty much every day and I've very rarely had a problem. There are some bikes that go quite fast and there are some potential problems, but I don't see it very often, I'll be honest.
It would be helpful if we could sort of demarcate which side to go on, and also ring the bells. They don't.
Well, we come up and down every Friday with our grandson, who's asleep at the moment. But yes, it is a nuisance, and they often are quite close to accidents, I think.
Respect the Railway commented with, "This problem turns a relaxing green space into a stressful traffic situation. We are hoping to diffuse some of that tension." The group are mainly trying to start a conversation to promote a mutual respect for path users. Rose White for UWE News.
A new report from Independent Age suggests that 25% of Bristol's elderly have debt averaging £1,700. As money gets increasingly tight for the city's elderly, more pensioners are calling out for financial help. Jordan Harris reports.
Bristolians retiring this year will receive on average 10% less than those that finished working last year, according to Bristol and West Financial Services. The report follows calls from age charities across the UK to provide more financial help for the elderly and those finishing work. One of those charities, Age UK, provides services to help the elderly manage their finances. CEO Mark Baker believes not all pensioners are in the same position.
Well, you often sort of hear when people worry about free transport, they say, Mick Jagger, why does he need a bus pass? But actually, a large group of older people in Bristol are quite poor, rather than, because Bristol's a really a city of contrasts, isn't it? It's got some of the richest people in the country living in Bristol, and it's got some of the biggest pockets of deprivation in Bristol. So the government does make attempts by having benefits and other entitlements that older people who are poor can do. And some of the things, if you take any sort of poll, you'll find that there's a lot of people who are entitled to benefits that they don't even know exist, and they don't know that they're entitled to.
The issue of financial instability for the elderly is nationwide. However, as property prices in Bristol continue to rise, so does the cost of living in the city. Some pensioners may now be faced with the challenge of stretching their pensions even further. A recent poll carried out by Independent Age claimed that 1 in 5 pensioners over the age of 65 feared that they would run out of money by the end of the month. Furthermore, they didn't know what care and support they were entitled to. The report highlights that 1 in 5 worry they will run out of money before the end of the month, 1 in 8 don't believe they'll have the money to pay for their funeral, and 1 in 4 are in debt averaging £1,700. Despite this, not all pensioners feel worried about the services provided. Recent retiree Verity Jackson-Taylor believes there is help out there.
It's all out there, you can look it up and read about it. It's not, organisations like Age Concern will give you advice if you need it. I think you can live on your pension, yeah. Well, I can, anyway, on mine, and it's minute.
With issues concerning Europe and the NHS dominating front pages, is Bristol doing enough to help its pensioners? Jordan Harris, UWE News.
Bristol space scientist David Ashford wants to slash the cost of space travel so it's accessible to you and I. In the same week of celebrating UN International Day of Human Spaceflight, he wants to design a plane which would take passengers into orbit. Dawn Garney reports.
Ground control to Major Tom.
Ever wanted to travel to space? David Ashford is the brains behind the Bristol space plane to make affordable space travel possible. He believes that by combining 1960s research with up-to-date technology, humans could make the journey to orbit by 2021. Last year, the firm launched a crowdfunding campaign of £150,000 to help build the first spaceplane model.
The key thing about an aeroplane is it's fully reusable, and the early designs of the space shuttle were fully reusable. And if they'd have been built, you'd have been to space by now. A space plane is an aeroplane with a rocket engine. There have been several aeroplanes already, not many, but several have flown with rocket engines. Now, if you put enough fuel in, it'll go to space height, and that is a space plane.
His book was used as a reference point for NASA in 1990. David has also researched how flying spaceplanes would improve sustainability on Earth.
When you've got low-cost access to space, there'll be enormous benefits. It'll slash the cost of doing environmental science from space.
But would Bristolians take him up on the offer? David's dream would be to create an airliner by 2021, which would make trips to space hotels for the cost of around £20,000.
I don't think so. I feel very nervous about the idea of going into space.
If I had the money, it would be, I think, an interesting experience.
I would just be too scared, I think would be my overwhelming response.
To be able to see something like that would be amazing, yes.
If it was a single orbit of the Earth, I'd be prepared, if I was in the position so to do, to pay £15,000.
If Bristol spaceplanes are successful, then flights could take off at airports like this by 2021, bringing space to the masses.
and that'll be one small step for man and one giant leap for you and I. Dawn Garney for UWE News.
Crowdfunding has become a popular means of raising money for businesses in Bristol. One Arts Cafe in Spike Island spoke to UWE News about the way the public is helping to transform their business.
This is Spike Island Cafe, one of many businesses in Bristol that has used crowdfunding to raise money for new community-focused projects. Earlier in the week, the cafe managed to surpass its £9,000 crowdfunding target. Owner Liz Horton talks about exactly how the crowdfunding campaign came about.
I took over the cafe in December and it needed quite a lot of things doing to make it a more welcoming and warm place, which is my kind of vision for it. And so somebody suggested that I look into crowdfunding, and so I did. And it worked. We hit the target on Friday, actually, which was amazing. So what you can do with crowdfunding is add a stretch target if you haven't finished the campaign. So I thought, okay, well, let's go for another 1,000, see what happens. And sure enough, we got another, well, just over 1,000. So it was amazing. And they were coming in right up to the last minute.
Elsewhere in Bristol, there are a range of other businesses that are crowdfunding for new ideas and unique business ventures. On Key Street, non-profit cafe Roll for the Soul are currently looking to raise £12,000 to reinvent their business as a commuter-focused bike cafe. Like Spike Island, the Space for Cyclists campaign have also hit their crowdfunding target and are using the money to promote a cycle-friendly infrastructure in the city. But does Spike Island's owner think that this new transformation will be able to serve the creative community?
Definitely, yeah. There's a huge amount going on in the art world here, much more than I know about, because I'm quite new to it myself. But there's things going on everywhere.
Well, the weekend has almost begun, but will it be a dry one? Here's Ed with the details.
Thank you, Matt. Well, after a week of pleasant sunshine and temperatures mild and getting into the mid-teens, Friday in Bristol has been a much more cloudy and unsettled day so far, with showery intervals and very little in the way of sunshine creeping through. The breezy and rainy conditions will remain for most of this evening, with temperatures dropping to 8 or 9 degrees, leaving a cloudy but dry night tonight. But later on, as we move into the weekend, it's going to feel colder, with temperatures remaining in single figures. It will be a chilly start on Saturday morning. The cloud is going to persist for most of the day, with rainy intervals in the afternoon, but it will brighten up towards the evening if you're planning on going out. On Sunday and into Monday, it will be much more settled and dry, with brightness continuing throughout the day. Temperatures will reach 11 degrees on Sunday afternoon, and skies will clear later into Sunday evening, leaving frost by night. Back to you, Matt.
Earlier, we asked you for your messages to the prospective mayoral candidates. Many thanks to those who sent in your video selfies. Here are a few of your thoughts.
My message for the upcoming mayor would be to sort out the transport in Bristol. The buses, they're always late. They just show up whenever they want.
My message to the mayor is to sort the buses out, because a lot of people rely on the bus service and it's rubbish in Bristol.
I'm putting my faith in you. I'm putting my trust in you. Don't stab me in the back. If you say you're going to keep rent prices lower, then keep them lower.
That's all we have time for today. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week with our final programme of the year. That's all from me. Goodbye.